Hello everyone, good to see you again. This is Soren, your favorite chess teacher, and today I'd like to share with you some knowledge about the French defense wing gambit. It's something you could do with white to battle against the French. It's quite efficient. It could be slightly surprising, especially if they haven't seen that very often, or maybe not at all, depends who you're playing with, but definitely some very, very good knowledge for you guys. Put it in your arsenal, apply it, see how it works out, how it works out for you, because it's definitely something that might be very helpful, and it's awesome. Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. So you're gonna open with e4, presumably. By the way, there's no such a thing as an opening that will suddenly be like a universal panacea, that you're gonna win all the games, or a secret stuff or opening that some people might be trying to selling you that will result in an eternal string of victories. There is no such a thing. But what I'm trying to do is just to convey some very solid opening, especially gambit lines, in which you will be maybe slightly better than your opponent, and provided the tactics would be better in the middle and maybe a decent endgame, hopefully you will be winning more than losing. So definitely now you will be ending up in a middle position with more than enough compensation. So e4, e6. By the way, let me just not rushing it now. So e4, e6. I know that normally it's being played d4 here, and what's following is d5, and then, you may be playing c3 or pushing e5. But what I want to propose to you today is just knight f3 being played after e6. So d5 now, right? Don't take the pawn. Do not take the pawn on d5. What I would like you to do, guys, is just push the e5. And now you've already achieved a little bit of something, which is blocking in the bishop on c8. So the bishop on c8 now, it's infamously the bad bishop in the French is this guy that they need to try and figure out what the heck to do with that bishop, what diagonal to use. So you've achieved something. The bishop has been blocked in. Forwards. c5. Most 99.99 of your opponents, co-belligerents, will be doing c5. That's what the French player does. They play c5. What are you going to do next? Don't do d4. No, you're going to play b4. What's the whole idea? The idea, the basic here, the essential plan is to deflecting the pawn from c5, which normally attacks the d4 white pawn. So you try to make this guy moving away from the center so that you gain the center with a move like d4 a bit later on. So now, assumingly they will take the pawn. Let's assume they will take the pawn. Now you're going to play d4, starting to securing a very strong pawn center here. Okay, and if knight c6, you're going to play a3. Again, another temporary sacrifice. Fret not, because you will be recovering the a3 pawn. Don't rush it then, because you're doing c3. And this is looking very good for white. I like it. I like it. Black is a little bit cramped. They need space to maneuvering pieces. The bishop on c8, again, the eternal bad bishop in the French. Well, eternal until it's not. The a3 pawn will be taking back. You will be playing bishop to d3. You're probably going to play knight to a3. Depends one black chooses to play next. And what very natural move would be here, bishop like e7. Again, there is not too many options for that bishop. Where on earth can they go? Plus, don't forget that there is also another thing, is the knight on g8. That also needs to go somewhere. Okay, and it's just not too many options. It's not enough space for black in this position. So let's just assume knight to h6, to which, have no fear, go take the knight, trade them, okay? Because even if they try to play rook on g8 here, let's just do it, you're going to castle, and you need not fear the rook on g8, because there is something fundamentally lacking here for black, and that is the bishop on c8 is pretty much blocked in. Can't cooperate. If this bishop was a free bishop, white would have had a problem. Okay, but the bishop is not. Especially the diagonal c8, h3 is closed for them. They might attempt to open up with f6, but now it looks very good for white. So in this position, you're really doing very well here. You know, you will be taking this guy back. You'll be playing queen to d2, threatening to take on h6. That looks very good for white if it gets to this point. Let me just go back a little bit here, because it's possible that your opponent will be playing also. Let me just find another sideline here. It's possible, apart from bishop e7, black might choose to play knight to h6 in order to get the knight on f5. It is very, very possible. To which you will be replying bishop to d3. That's an important idea for you guys to remember. The bishop wants to go to d3. Even black king castles or not, the bishop wants to be developed on d3. So that's the happiest square for this particular bishop. Now, should you take the knight? Not necessarily now. Don't take it at the minute. Let them develop. They will be playing bishop to f5. That's absolutely fine. You could take with the knight on a3, so that's a possible continuation here. Bishop on d7. Now you castle. Look, this guy needs to play somewhere. If they trade you, that's even good for you and incredibly bad for black, because if they were to take the knight on a3, you're going to take on a3, and then they have problem with the castle. So, and now, if you just remember this setup, if the knight is on f5 and the black bishop is on e7, it's very likely it's going to happen on many occasions, because there's not too many options for black here, and very easy to play for you. The g4 move is an icebreaker. Really good stuff for you to play. The most active, probably knight on h4, to which you will be taking, and after bishop takes, you're going to push the f pawn. And this is looking very promising for white, and not a huge advantage, but you're still getting like plus 0.50, more or less, depends on the variations that will be played now. But that looks very good. They need to retreat the bishop, because if they don't, you're gonna block in the bishop, and then, you know, all sorts of tactics will take place here. And notice how active your bishops are, especially after this guy, the knight on a3, either goes on c2 in order to relaunch itself, and then you're having the bishop that very nicely travels on a3. Depends on what they do with this guy here. So that looks very good. Very, very, very good. I like it so much. So that's how I personally play against the French. And let me just go back in case I missed something here. Right, what happens if they don't take? Okay, so you might be saying, okay, what happens if they don't take? I mean, what can they possibly play? Because if they play bishop e7, just saying, what you're going to do is just take on b4. Just take on b4. Either they check with the bishop or they take with the knight on b4. What are you going to play next is just c3, boom. Where do they go? Probably back on a7, or probably they go on a5. That's fine. That's very good for white. And again, black has the same little issue here. It's just the lack of space in black's development. So that's incredibly important, because white has really expanded on the king side. Your bishops are an absolute a miracle. They work perfectly fine, especially the light square bishop for white. Look at the huge difference in between the light square bishop and the dark light square bishop. Huge difference. And, you know, if the bishop goes on a5, you would say pretty much thank you, because you're going to get your own bishop. Again, really stifling and impeding them from castling. So that's, I think it looks absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. And I would say, guys, go with the wing gambit against the French, and it's awesome. Main ideas, as soon as they do the c5, challenge with b4. Okay? And again, if they do something like knight c6, again, take this guy on c5, they play on c5 to recover, push this pawn, attacking the bishop. I don't know where they want to go, probably e7 or something like this, but looks really, really good here. Really good. You got a nice center, you're going to play a c3, and that's absolutely gorgeous. So guys, this is the French defense knight variation wing gambit. So play this, see how it turns out in your own games, over the board, blitzes, rapid games. Hey, play it even in the classics, because it's really, really good stuff to know and to play. Excellent. Thanks very much for being with me. I'll see you guys shortly with more chess videos.